Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Terrain Studio. I'm your host, Sean Morris. Tonight on the Terrain Studio, I'm actually hanging out with not Matt. Matt is not currently here this evening. He's taken a well-deserved rest, so I thought it was going to be solo tonight, but I have had a gracious patron come and join me here tonight. So not only is he representing the Terrain Studio in his patronage, he's representing the Terrain Studio on the Hobby Hangout, and I think he might even be sporting a Terrain Studio shirt. So he is well prepared, perhaps even more prepared for the Terrain Hangout than I am. So just wanted to give you guys a quick shout if you haven't been here before. Sean Morris. I own the Terrain Studio. I run the Terrain Studio Patreon, and I do a weekly hobby hangout. You can also catch me on Legion Academy weekly on Tuesdays and Friday Night Fights on Friday. That is over on the Legion Academy YouTube channel. This is, of course, on the Terrain Studio channel. Basically, what we do every week is we hang out. We mostly talk, or I do, get hardly any work done, but we have a good time. And we're here to answer any hobby-related questions, share anything. I point you in the direction of some tutorials that are either on the Patreon or free. There's a number of videos there, so if you're looking for anything from like rust effects to weathering to mud effects to snow to how to create things out of plastic card or styrene or foam. I'm going to be working on a foam building tonight, just doing a little bit of a protective coat. That's where I'm going to start anyway, and then I may shift over and paint some models. Michael's actually assembling, so we do a whole host of things here, all hobby related, of course, but mostly I'm here to entertain and ask and answer your questions that you have related to the hobby. So I won't give you too much more of a preamble before I bring Michael in, so we'll slide over here and I'll let you guys say hello to Michael. Michael, we can
Hello.
hear you if you want to. Yeah, there we go. So Michael is
Okay.
working on some Stap Riders, I think, for Star Wars Legion.
Yes, that's correct. So trying to
Awesome.
figure out how all the droids go together and try not to lose any pieces.
Well, both are challenges for sure. So I have a few cameras hooked up here tonight, so I'll just give you kind of a rundown of the screens real quick. I will be in and out on the microphones. So right now I'm at the computer, but I'll actually be working underneath that close cam, and then Michael will be in the corner here because that's more focused on his camera. Then we're going to bring you over here, and then this is just kind of the overview so you guys can see. Michael's hanging out here in the bottom left, and then I have an overhead cam at the table, as well as just an end round cam so you guys can see what's going on over there. This will be Michael's close-up shot there, so anytime he's working on something special or we need to zoom in, we'll do that. As you can see, he's laying out the bodies there. So those pesky B1s, God bless those those two-piece heads.
That's usually what happens when I play them. They all get laid out.
Yeah, fair enough. I think that's standard procedure for B1s. And then, of course, this will be my close-up here as I'm working. You guys can see I'm working on, this is the foam building I've been working on. I'm just going to be giving it a second layer of the Mod Podge coat sealed with acrylic paint. And so I'm just doing that. It gives the foam some rigidity and gives it some added bounce to stand up the table gameplay. All right, let me just work my way back through these real quick. I can swap over the microphones. If you notice I'm cutting in and out, that's just simply because I'm swapping over mics. And there we go. All right, Michael, just give me 30, not even 30 seconds, 5 seconds. I'm going to jump over and, to the table.
You bet.
All right, I'm officially hooked back up, and you guys should be able to start hearing what I'm saying. You got
Gotcha.
me loud and clear, Michael? Okay, perfect.
I do.
All right. I'm just hooking up the big screen here so I can actually see. And if there's any chat comments, of course, feel free to entertain us with your questions, your comments, your stories, all that good stuff. Otherwise, it's just going to be a lot of Michael and I rambling, which is perfectly fine as well. So Michael, COVID-19 has been it's been in the news. I'm not sure if you heard about it. It's a thing.
I haven't noticed. I've been locked in my house for the last 7 months or so. So I kind of missed what's going on in the world.
Fair enough. Unrelated, I assume.
Yes, just decided I didn't want to go out anymore. I've had enough. And
Yeah.
so,
Fair. But no, in all seriousness, how has it been in terms of like helping or hurting the hobby work? Because
um,
initially I thought it'd be awesome, but apparently it's not as awesome.
that was my thought as well, was that I was going to have all kinds of time since I wasn't going anywhere. And it's honestly just been the last week or so that I've actually started putting stuff together again. So I basically hadn't done any work on any Legion models until about a week and a half ago. And the last few days I've been making a lot of progress though. I did start on one building. First thing I've ever tried to craft. It's not great. I'll see if I can grab it here where I'm at.
Right.
So it's not very far along, but something for play a little D&D.
Okay.
I don't know if this is going to fit on the camera any way, shape, or form. Probably
Can
not.
see can
Too
see
big
some of
for what
the
the area I've got.
interior. Looks like it's built out of a
Yeah,
little bit
so
of a foam core and
yep, foam core for the walls and just the pink foam for the floors.
oh yeah, you did a
So
great job on the wood texture. How did you do that?
thank you. So that I just cut some thin strips of the foam, cut them down to the size I wanted, and then took a pencil and traced out the grain texture I wanted, and
Right.
then cut it in a little bit more with a hobby knife just to get it a little bit deeper.
Okay.
So,
Ballpoint pens work really good as well for that.
yep. Yeah, I did mechanical pencil. I don't know if it was the foam I had or the way I was doing it, but I found I was digging it up more, ripping chunks out of it when I was doing that.
Right.
So a sharp hobby knife was easier to cut that in, I found.
No, that makes sense.
So,
No, that's cool. I like the foam work there. I guess we're working on similar, at least with similar mediums here. So uh,
yep.
yours has less bricks than mine.
Yeah, so far. Obviously not done. That actually I did the first couple weeks when we were COVID lockdown. I found a little bit of time and got started on that, and then, like all good projects, it got set aside and
Yeah, I have
hasn't been
like
picked up again for a while.
I have literally like 5 things that I have on the go for Patreon. So I have a Patreon video coming this weekend, and it's literally just a recap video of like where everything is in terms of stages. Like I have a 1-to-1 scale prop that I'm working on that I haven't showed on Patreon. It's
Nice.
that crate that I've been working on. Then I have the
Okay.
Kashyyyk project that I am literally ready to put the board on the table so that I can start positioning the tree and working around that. And then I have to recap all the work that I've done on this Patreon project here, this foam building that I've been working on. And then I have the desert terrain, the 3D printed Imperial terrain stuff that I'm about to start for Friday Night Fights table. And then I have another foam, the last Patreon video, the last month's video, the one where I was working on the floor. I'm going to start working on that to do the fall scene. So I haven't done any like fall style terrain with like, like the
Okay.
fallen leaves and sort of like more reds and yellows, bring in some like browns, just kind of working with that sort of
Nice.
pigment. I've done like a lot of rust pigments, a lot of winter pigments. I've done some mud pigments, but I've never really done kind of like the fall type effects. So I'm just going to use a floor just as a different like a different platform to do that. So yeah, so just basically, as you said, you get started on a bunch of things, and then you just kind of inspiration hits, or other things come up, and then suddenly you're on to something else, or it's a while before you get back to the thing you started.
Yep, exactly.
I'm just doing a really like this is just a rough second coat of this mod Podge and acrylic paint, and it really adds a super resilient layer. I'm not sure if this is something you might even want to do for your building. Is it adds a ton of
Yep.
rigidity to it, and then the likelihood of you like chipping or damaging the foam and exposing any of the pink is significantly lessened. Not only that, but when you're all done, you can actually use a spray acrylic over top of this, and it won't eat or erode any of your foam via the aerosol.
Nice.
It actually creates a protective layer that's thick enough to prevent that from happening. So I won't be able to get down into all the cracks between all the bricks because they're way too fine, and I'd be here for hours. So what I'm going to do is after this and these dry up, I will just take my airbrush and give it another black spray over it. And the likelihood of being able to hit into those little crevices will be a lot easier. Then by the time you add a couple washes and layers of weathering powders, then most of the pink or white are gone. Anything that's left after that, then you go in with a small brush and just pick out the last few stubborn remaining pieces.
Absolutely.
But no,
maybe as soon as I get done with the glue here, I'll show you one other thing then that I did do on the building. I probably didn't show up in the video.
Sure.
As we mentioned, I was rushing to get a camera set up at all, so
yeah,
I managed to get there, but I don't have the best shots available. And maybe you can give me some advice. It might be something else somebody else would be interested in too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I did, of course, start with one of the smallest details. I started with the windows, and I don't know if you saw those when I had it up here before.
I did, yep.
Okay, so I had the windows here, and very smartly got them all. I did found some sheets that had the glass texture kind of already in them, and then I used resin to fill it out to make it look a little more like glass. And before I did the resin, I was smart enough to paint the windows. But now I'm curious about some of that stuff like you're doing with the black Mod Podge. I was thinking about doing foam or something on the outside, but I'm concerned about I don't want to screw up the paint on all the windows because I don't know the way I did it. I don't know that I can get it back to matching again because I actually washed the raw wood that I was using. So I don't know if you have any techniques that you use once you've got details that are already done and you're trying to do something kind of like what you're doing now.
I mean, I use a lot of masking. So I will use there's a specialized tape. I mean, really, if you want to just cut some painter's tape, it works really good. The masking stuff is a little bit nicer because it has a little bit more elasticity to it. I find the painter's tape is a little bit too rigid. They tend to err on the side of going a little bit thicker, just because the nature of the paint that you are probably using for that is it's a lot more dense and has a lot more typically a lot more pigment and can soak through some of the thinner stuff. But that's typically what I do. For example, I don't have it right here, but maybe if I get through these, I'll grab them. I have, for my commandos that I built, I attached all the flight stands already. And so I did that before I even airbrushed or primed them. And so all I did is I just taped off the flight stands with the yellow masking. And then I just airbrush, painted. I've been holding on to that. And then basically at the end, I'm going to peel it off and not have to have worried about glossing over or painting on any of my clear acrylic paint stands, which I feel is basically translates to exactly what you might be looking to do there. Yeah, so that's what I would do. Just tape them off. And if you do have a little bit of a window frame there, so you have the ability to probably tape and put your tape on the frame as opposed to trying to cut it panel per panel.
Yeah, exactly.
So, because I assume you don't want to paint over your wood either, really. But I mean, if you do paint over your wood at all, that's probably easier to bring back and color match than it is to get the window staining.
Yep. Yeah, because the windows are like I said, they're the clear resin right now, so that would be hard to undo anything on there.
Another thing that I'm actually experimenting with, and I haven't finished the test, but which. Well, let me screw it up first before you try. But what I've actually done is on my Droid Shields, I've actually attached those as well, and put the clear acrylic or translucent acrylic panels in. Now, I then actually painted chipping fluid over the entirety of the pseudo glass portions. I did 2 coats of chipping fluid, and chipping fluid basically what it is it's like if I was going to paint a metallic thing and I wanted to have like an exposed color underneath. So maybe I'm painting it dark and I want to have a rust color that's going to be chipped through. So I'll paint the entire thing rust, chipping fluid, then over the spots that I want to expose, and then paint the entire thing. So what I did is I kind of reversed it. I painted over the entire glass portion, 2 coats of chipping fluid. I'm going to paint, airbrush, add all the details, and then what I'm going to do then is then go in and try to remove the chipping fluid to re-expose the glass texture underneath.
Very cool.
Yeah, so I don't know what the effect of the chipping fluid might have on something that's inked. I'm just going straight to back to the base color. So it might be a little bit more harsh on an ink. It may peel up the ink without having if you haven't had it sealed already, it might have some adverse effect on that. But I'm certainly going to try it in terms of how it works over the acrylic. And,
nice.
Yeah.
Interesting to see how that goes for you.
Yeah, and I'm not 100% concerned if it's perfect, because what I'm going to do anyway is I'm going to use a white gray and actually frost the glass over, because mine are all winter themed droids.
Yep.
And so I don't need
That's
it
cool.
to be perfectly translucent, but I did want to kind of have that yellowing effect coming through. And I didn't want to have to just go insert that later. I kind of like to build my models and paint and weather everything together so that everything looks like it was supposed to have blended together, and not sort of adding pieces on later. So.
Right. Yep. So you were probably smarter than me then. I left my shields off right now, so that was part of my.
I don't know. I don't know. We'll see who's smarter in the end. It may not even be a case of smarter. I think it may just be a case of what effect you wanted to achieve. And like most things that I do, I use 34 steps when 3 is sufficient. So I may just have had a method that took way more time than necessary. So that's a perfectly logical conclusion to jump to as well. So.
Well, the way mine went. When I was complaining in chat last night and today, you obviously saw that. So
yes, I did.
I don't know that I'm coming out way ahead on you. So we'll see it when it's all done.
Yes. Yeah, Michael was expressing his, I'll call it hatred for the droid process. We are trying to remain kid friendly here.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I was expressing that I followed no directions when assembling mine, and just went willy-nilly with the assembly. So we took 2 different approaches. They're both assembled, so I guess end result was the same. Maybe more swearing on Michael's end, less on mine. But my swearing may be to be continued or postponed temporarily. Maybe I'll have some.
Well, I'm not quite there yet, so we'll see how it goes. But I think the painting will be easier now that I've got them together. That final assembly might be a trick.
Right.
Trying to put the shields on later.
Right.
If things don't line up exact.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I'm just working my way through this. This building, I have definitely taken the most difficult route to building this. And the reason being is because it's a full interior and exterior building, and we have to obviously paint and pick out the brick pattern and all that. I can't fully assemble the building because there's no way to paint the inside walls once it's fully assembled. And so I've had to actually build this building in sections, like a wall panel at a time, both in and out, and constantly reassemble, like loosely, like dry fit assemble. Check a corner, check the alignment, check to make sure the brick rows line up, take it apart, build some more, realign. And so it's been a labor in the sense that like it's very non-conventional build. It looks good, but it's just so what I'm getting right now is I'm trying to get the interior done so that other Jace can get the interior painted for me. Then I can assemble it and then I can finish the exterior. So I'm nearly done. I think I have like 1.5 walls left. I'm gonna leave the roof until the
Nice.
very end. But yeah, it's just been a very unorthodox assembly process.
So is it that one going to be interior playable or
Yeah,
accessible or just?
yeah,
Oh, okay.
it's fully accessible. I'll show you. I'll show you real quick here. I can just put it on the overhead. Now, keep in mind the contrast is significantly lower because it's all black. But so that is the above angle of the floor there.
Okay.
I'm not sure if you can see that. So
Very
this
nice.
is like my hand. So it's decent size.
Yep.
It's about 12 inches. It'll be about 10 inches when it's done. It actually goes out to here. And then this is the chimney that's on the inside. I know it's backwards to you, but see,
No,
so
it
you
looks
can see
good.
that. And then there's a faction symbol. Let me rotate there. So I've done that all in foam as well.
Very cool.
And then the this is the interior door here. So it's brick wall with the door, and then the exterior there. You can see a lot more contrast in the pink foam, but yeah.
Nice.
So
Looks
so
good.
yeah, it's decent. So like it fits together, like it dry fits nicely, but it's just this process of constantly taking it apart, putting it together, and then this wall's even more elaborate. It has so it has got some cutouts because this wall sits here, and then actually has a couple cutaways, and there's a platform that runs along this end. And
Nice.
then there's a staircase that goes on the exterior of this, and then it's going to have a flat roof. It's a very arid desert style building. So it's going to have a non-traditional. It's not a slope roof. We decided to change and go with a flat roof. So it will be relatively flat. So this will be the largest of the buildings in the series, and then I have one additional building a little bit smaller than this one. And this build for the customer only has 2 buildings, which is nice. But then I have several area terrain pieces, some tree, some rocky outcrops, sort of a shrine that we need to build, and then a cool kind of like cavernous, like in-ground cave where a beast lives. So
Oh, that sounds like fun.
yeah, it's got some really cool pieces. Very non-traditional, not what I've been working on lately in the studio. And then what I'm going to do is we don't really have a super fast timeline on this, so we're kind of plugging away at it. But I am working on it at least a couple days a week, and then what I need to do is get back to the Kashyyyk build because Jace is actually painting up a whole series of Wookiees, and we want to have some really fun games on Friday Night Fights with that. So tomorrow I think we're
I
actually
look
gonna
forward
do
to that.
skirmish tomorrow. So I think
Can you
there's
get
gonna
2
be
tanks in skirmish?
no, sadly. But you can get one. Yeah, I mean, one's pretty good, but I'm not playing tomorrow night. I'll be casting, but
Okay.
yeah, but we are going to try to get a few more terrain builds going just for that. So like I said, it's pulling in all kinds of directions, which is never a bad thing. But COVID has really put a damper on the amount of like work I can kind of like outsource to the guys in terms of like, oh hey, can you get this done and bring this back, or hey, can you work on this at home? Because like the getting together and the meeting up and all that sort of stuff and hobby weekends, they're all done.
Yep.
There's none of that happening. So we keep the bubble pretty tight on Friday Night Fights, and we really limit the exposures. So 1 or 2 maximum people, and
Yep.
then and that's it. So and then we just do that every week, so we can kind of nobody's been sick, but if in fact anyone were to come down with anything, we have that exposure time, so there will be, okay, no, you're not feeling well, you're out, and then everyone else stays safe. And yeah, so
Yes.
we have not had that, or at least anyone who has been under the weather has just opted not to come. So
That's good.
but, yeah, I mean, you can do it safely. I mean, I work in a building, a school every day, so my bubble is large.
Yep.
But we've also all been safe there, so that's fantastic as well. So,
That's good. Yeah, I've been
uh,
fortunate. I've been able to work from home, and my daughter is doing school from home this year. So and my wife stays at home too. So our bubble is very small.
fair enough. Well, I know
We
that you
fig-
got a big batch of wine all prepared, so you guys are good.
we're good through the winter at least. So
Yeah, fair. Then after that, this thing's got to end.
yeah, got to get opened up so we can go make some more.
Yeah, no, that's good. That was cool to see
But
you
no,
kind of doing that. That's neat.
yeah, it was something we started a few years ago, and nobody had complaints about it, so we kept going.
No, it's cool. It's just something that you can kind of, do yourself and kind of keep in house, and you know the process, and
Exactly.
you know where the stuff's been and how it got made and all that. So,
Yep. And
well,
most of the fruit that we use for it is homegrown, so
right, yeah, no, that's very
it's
cool. No, it's really good process. Another hobby in a hobby. They're kind of
yeah, and I like that one because it does take a lot of time. So
it
a
doesn't
few
take a
hours
lot.
once a month, and no,
Oh,
it's
that's nice.
mostly it takes a long time to ferment, but you only have to take a few hours once a month or so,
Okay,
and other than that, you just let it sit.
right. And is
So
everyone kind of in the family kind of a part of the process, either the picking and the processing and all
yep,
that stuff, or okay, fair enough.
yep. We have the apples. My mom has the raspberries and the rhubarb, and my sister takes care of sourcing some of the other stuff we need, and
Oh,
then
nice. It's a full
we
family
take
operation.
turns. Yep, yeah. So it's kind of well, before COVID, it was an excuse to get together and see each other. So, but
Right.
that's where COVID kind of put a damper on that. So,
Yeah. I love how COVID is almost a noun now. It's like a person. It's like that dang COVID.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
No,
noun, it's a verb, it's an adjective, it's whatever you
oh,
need it
for
to be.
sure. Yeah, it's an explicit, whatever you want to, whatever,
But you
whatever you
told me this
want
is kid
to.
friendly, so we can't use it that
Yeah,
way.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I didn't definitely didn't mean it in an explicit manner. So, yeah, there you go. Yeah, this is not a long process either that I'm kind of plugging away at. You can see that shine and like when it's actually pretty impressive how this mixture um it puts like almost a meniscus kind of over the foam, and it becomes infinitely more resilient, like I said, to either like dents or scratches, and as you add your layers of paint onto it, it will start to develop a little bit more of a glossy finish. And so it's important that you do actually dull coat it or at least finish it off with a matte coat. So the Vallejo seal, I'm going to grab something real quick. I've shown this before, but I
Yep.
haven't shown you, Michael. So one sec. All right. All right, so I'm back with a few items here. So, yeah, this is the floor. This is the one that I did for the tutorial, the Patreon tutorial. So you would
Yep.
have saw that, Michael.
Nice.
And then that's our palette that we're working with. So, gonna kind of bring it up to that red surface.
Oh,
So, uh,
like that.
yeah, so that was just another tutorial piece there. But what we're doing is with this, as this is the palette, this is the brick color that we've chosen to bring in. So I think it blends quite nicely with the surrounding
Yeah.
landscape. And so the idea that we really wanted to be, constructed from the landscape that was around there. But this is effectively just a test piece. And the nice thing about this is, like you can see here, I can scratch at the foam, and I'm not going to, like, I'm not flaking and doing anything. Like now, if I were to just go at the base foam, like right here, and I
Oh yeah.
scratch, like it's just gonna leave a ton of marks, a ton of scratches. So that's just the Mod Podge, and then that's the paint. And then what I've done is just sprayed the matte sealer right over it. So although it gets a little bit glossy when you finish, one coat right over the top really dulls the whole thing down, solidifies and brings it all together. And then I'll bring that right up to the camera there, and you can just see all the crevices are filled in nicely with some ink, and it's just an easy way to convert something like this into something like that. So it's really
cool.
real simple process. So like this project here, I said it's like the worst IKEA project ever. It just started. It started from this. This is what every wall is made out of. Just a ton of little bricks, and like Michael said, just cut it by hand. I cut mine just several more times in smaller chunks. But yeah, that's what it ended up like. This is the staircase here. That's the inside. You can see I just laminated a bunch of layers together, and then that's what it came out looking like there.
Very nice.
So, yeah, it's just a playable. This is going to be a game that uses 1-inch sort of round bases. So a lot of the terrain, I think, actually is going to maybe double for both the game and a little bit of narrative, perhaps even D&D gameplay. So right, kind of in the same realm you were talking about before, Michael. So.
Yep. So, quick question for you, Sean. I know we've talked before. There was another product that you had recommended for sealing foam. I don't remember if that was from Hotwire Foam Factory or something else.
Yeah, foam coat.
Foam coat, yep. So when would you recommend using foam coat versus Mod Podge versus other stuff, I guess?
That's a really good question. So I like the foam coat if I'm trying to coat something that I don't need to have a defined texture, or something that I'm actually going to texture over. So for example, the desert hills that I did for the Worlds tables. So what I did is and the Genosis table for that matter. So when I did that, I put the foam coat and I put a grit into it. And so I really used the grit mixed with the foam coat and a hardener to give the terrain really strong durability, drop test type stuff. So that it wouldn't crush or chip or damage when it was moving around. Now the foam coat alone hard coats your foam. So if you're doing something like a prop and you want to foam coat it so that it has a hard finish, which is fine, which what a lot of people do. However, the drop test and things like that, the foam coat itself is more like an eggshell. So when when an egg is sitting there, it's strong. When an egg is like sort of tapped or brushed, it still can be strong, but what you can do is you can get cracks. And so you'll get depressions, and it won't necessarily shatter, but it will crack. Now, if you put foam coat over something that's a little bit more rigid, it won't necessarily flex or bend. However, you know what foam's like, you can press it and depress it. And if you can depress it, what ends up happening is you delaminate the foam coat from the actual foam. So what I do is I use it in conjunction. So I first put the hardener on, because then that gives me a hard surface. My trick, though, that I developed, and this is kind of by experimentation, foam coat itself has two properties, or two additives, I should say. You can have bounce or you can have boost. Boost makes foam coat harder. Bounce makes foam coat softer. Has more flex. Now, for terrain, I don't want it to have a flex. Now, what you can't do is mix boost and bounce together. It doesn't work. It's like putting oil and water together. They're doing two different things, and they're opposing each other. However, both properties are pretty important in terrain. You want it to be hard, but then if it's going to take a beating, you want it to be resilient. So 3D prints and things like that, they're hard. However, 3D prints, when they get those fragile pieces, they'll snap off and fly across the room quicker than anything. That just happens. Models, you glue them together, they're rigid to a point. If you flex, hit, or break, or bend, they snap, and then they're suddenly crumbling. The foam piece that I have discovered, and what the technique that I did was this. I took the acrylic paste, which actually has a flexibility factor to it. It has some elasticity to it. First thing I do is take foam, I hard coat it. Then what I do is I take my textured acrylic, and this is what I was saying, I apply the foam coat to something that I want to have a textured surface, because the foam coat itself will have a texture, and then anything that you apply to it, there's more surface area to adhere. So then, and you can absolutely have foam coat and smooth it down, so you can sand it. I just don't do it because it defeats the purpose of what I'm trying to achieve. But then I apply the acrylic paste directly to it. And let me grab the piece because it'll make a lot more sense. I literally have a visual. So again, 5 seconds.
Yep.
Here we go, Michael. I'll just put this under the camera so folks that are watching this later and yourself can have a look at it. So this is what I'm talking about. So this piece right here is a foam piece. I think you can probably hear this.
Oh yeah.
That's foam. Also, this is foam.
Yep.
It doesn't have that knock sound. Yeah, so this right here, again, I got that nice textured surface on here. So all I've did is exactly what I told you. I hard coated it first, and that gave me the rigidity. That kept the foam, that put that shell on there. Then I pasted over it with the acrylic paste, and that gave the resilience. So now I can actually press on this. Despite it being hard, I can press on it. It doesn't actually have enough flex to break the shell. And even if it does put a crack on the under surface, the acrylic actually acts like an elastic and keeps it all together. So there's no breaking, denting, damaging of this any way, shape, or form. It's like indestructible. I would need to take like a hammer or a knife and actually penetrate this. But it's super rigid. It's stood up. It's standing the test of time. The top surface, I actually applied some PVA and put a sand surface across the top. It's obviously added some added stability to the top, and the reason that the top needs to have a little bit extra is because this is where somebody could press, elbow smash it, lean on it, that sort of stuff. So I've added a little bit of extra stability to that. Any of the rocky clusters here, I've used this material called Celluclay. And the Celluclay, I've actually built the entire Kashyyyk tree was just covered in this Celluclay as well. Now, Celluclay itself is also one other protective foam substance that you can use. The only thing with Celluclay is it has a fibrous finish because it's actually a paper mache. So obviously having some rocky outcrops with some like protrusions and dry brushing it up, you can see how that's sort of dry brushed up a little bit different. That was perfectly fine for the surface that I wanted here. So really depending on the finish that you want, obviously the buildings, I want them smooth finish because they're bricks. So I'm going to use the Mod Podge layer. On the hills, for the most part, I was okay to have kind of this like textured surface. So I used the foam coat, and then I added over some acrylic paste. Then on the tree, I wanted to have a very thick finish. So the Celluclay, I was able to put on thick, nice and thick. I was able to smooth it with my finger, but having the fibrous finish, like this right here, on a tree, perfectly fine. Like that, you can see if this was painted brown, that would give me kind of that tree bark finish.
Right.
And so really the material that I use all is to strengthen the foam. However, the end goal is to keep in mind what finish am I putting on the item. And so that's really it's a long-winded answer, but it's hopefully comprehensive enough to give you that there's more than one material, and really there's other factors to consider other than how do I make this hard.
Absolutely.
So there you go. So anybody who's listening to that later and cares, there you go. None of it's difficult to work with, and none of it's expensive. This mixture I'm using right here, you can actually buy both items at a dollar store, or craft store. The Mod Podge is a specific material. The acrylic paint, I say the cheaper the better. And I don't use a lot of cheap materials. I feel like you get a lot what you pay for in most cases. However, the reason I say cheap is because usually cheap acrylic paint is so heavily pigmented, and oftentimes it's been sitting around a while, and I find it's just very, very thick. And honestly, it lends to this process. Like Vallejo paint would be far too thin to make this process effective, or like an army painter or a GW. The paints are too thin. But those cheap acrylics, they just got so many like additives in them or whatever they put in them, but they just end up being super, super thick, and they actually work better for this process. And the Mod Podge is, you can get it in various finishes, from gloss to satin to matte. Although this is matte, it's still a little bit glossy in my opinion, and that's just because it has a little bit of adhesive in it. It actually can act like an adhesive, and so the adhesive makes it a little shiny, I find. So I don't care about it being shiny. In fact, I prefer it to have a little bit of sheen on it, because when we put the washes over it, it flows over the bricks a lot nicer.
Nice.
So, how's your builds coming?
Moving along slowly. I'm not the fastest model builder to begin with, so
Well,
all the little
CIS
fidgety pieces go.
Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say CIS is not the easy button in terms of. I know everyone loves the new plastic kits, but then sometimes I think about reminding people, like, remember when they came in those individual bags and they were like two press fit arms and a set of legs, and you were done.
Yep. No, I will say, as a general rule, I do like the new plastic kits. I enjoy sitting down to do them. I enjoy the hobby aspect of it, as long as I have time to do the stuff I need to do. Like right now, like I said, I've just put together a bunch of BXs. I'm putting together these. I've got a couple others that I'm trying to get ready, because in a week and a half or so, I'm going to be not at home and have several days to paint. So I'm trying to get everything assembled and primed and base coated so I can take just a few paints with me.
Okay.
And I'm finding the timeline for getting all this stuff done is a little tighter than I'd like.
Are you headed overseas, or?
No, I'm headed down to my parents for a couple of days.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Just to spend a couple of days there.
Oh,
And
makes sense.
I probably could, but I prefer not to bring the airbrush and everything else that goes along with that. So,
I mean, who doesn't like an air compressor kicking in at 2 a.m.?
Exactly. But no, if I can bring just a couple of models that are, like I said, base coated and ready for some of the next layer, that would be ideal. So
Right. Weird question, not hobby related, but my mother also visited us. I want to say maybe no, it'd be 2.5 weeks, because she just messaged me on Monday and said she was getting out of jail, meaning she was done quarantining, because she had to quarantine for 14 days after returning back from visiting us. And so so that was Monday. So yeah, so it's over 2 weeks, almost 3 weeks now. Having being adult yourself, I'll consider you an adult, Michael.
thank you. I appreciate it. Some people do, some don't.
No problem. I figured. I was
My
just
wife
curious.
is probably the don't.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah. I met her, perfectly nice lady, not wrong.
Yeah, you met both of us, and probably right on both counts.
Yeah, fair. I mean, I'm not far behind either. So, but I was just curious. I assume your parents are older than you, as they typically are.
Generally.
What do your folks think about you doing hobbies? And the reason I ask is, my mom, when she was here, was thoroughly fascinated by everything that was happening here, like just the gameplay. She was taking pictures of the guys in the Friday night fights, and like was trying to figure out like what buttons are these, like looking at the stream, and just like she thinks it's neat, because I didn't really do this stuff when I when I was like living at home. Like I did this kind of like later on kind of thing, and like and so it wasn't something that I had kind of always growing up. And I was just curious, what do you like if you're going to your parents? And the reason I got prompted on this, you're going there, you're going to do some
Yep.
painting. What do they think about things like this?
So I started even later than you because I actually didn't start any of this hobby stuff until Legion was coming out once it was announced.
Oh yeah, well,
And then
really late then.
I got a hold of somebody and said, make me a table because I don't think I can do it. And the guy did a pretty good job. I don't know if it's in the shot back here, but it's there. Um, so yeah, after that, I kind of got started in doing it. I bought a 3D printer. So I printed some terrain. Actually, there's a bunch of that right behind me on this side. So I don't know if you can see.
Yeah, your other camera's small in the corner, so I think if you held it under your close cam, there you
Okay.
go, perfect. Yeah, oh that tree looks fantastic.
Yeah. So started the 3D printing stuff. That's where I got started. And my parents were fascinated that you could take a spool of plastic string and turn it into that kind of stuff, and that I would take the time to paint it, would not go crazy.
Yeah.
And then I started putting together the little figures and painting those. And again, they were amazed that anybody A could and B would take the time to do that um, without going crazy again.
Yeah, fair.
So they've been very supportive and interested and fascinated by it, but not to where they want any part of it, I guess.
Yeah, no, fair.
So
And like, don't get me wrong, my mom's like definitely not
yeah,
playing any games of Legion.
yep, yeah,
But
no,
she,
but
but
yeah,
she takes
they're
the.
fascinated from a distance.
Yeah, no, it's fair.
So,
It's.
but
I just think it's interesting because I think like, I mean, I have a small baby now, and I'm just kind of obviously I would be thrilled if she ever developed any interest in any of this stuff, but I just like obviously it'd be different. Like I would be, I would set an example about this. So her doing this
yep,
eventually in the future wouldn't be a far stretch, right? I didn't grow up around this. My dad was a mechanic by trade. He was in the army for 40 years, so that was my
yep,
kind of upbringing around that. Obviously, I have an interest in military and history and all that, and that's probably a direct result of that. But certainly nobody in my family is a Star Wars fan or was a terrain maker or anything like that. So they all love the
right.
outdoors, and I can't stand it. So I, I developed the skills in other areas, and yeah, no, I just totally curious, just a random
Yeah,
thought,
and
but
actually, so you're talking about your daughter. My daughter and I actually did play X-Wing 1.0 for a while,
right,
um, to the point of where we have gaming leagues, obviously here, like a lot of places do. And one league she went and played in by herself. So that one, she was relatively new. She was fairly young yet then, because that was a few years ago now. And so I didn't play in the league, but she did, and I would help her out with, these are the things you can do, these are the rules. But she made all the decisions by herself, and it was a really great experience. She actually won a couple of games in the short league.
nice.
So yeah, she did pretty well. And I got to say credit to the community here as well. I was worried about, and I understand it. People have their night out. They want to get away from things for a while. How are they going to take when a young girl shows up and wants to play games with them? And
Yep,
they were all very encouraging, very nice, very welcoming to her.
yep.
It's a story I've told a number of times, but very impressed. I like the people to begin with, but very impressed with the way that they treated her. So
Well,
it
that's
was a great
that's
experience for her and something great for us to bond over. And she has painted a couple of minis, D&D minis and Imperial Assault minis. Not a lot, but a couple.
right.
So she's not as interested in it, but she likes to sit down with me once in a while and do it. So
No,
something we can bond over. And
yeah, no, that's fantastic. I will not like. I mean, depends if mom gets her hooks into it. Like I have no chance. Like
yep,
there we won't be anything near like. I always kid. I like my wife obviously is supportive in the nature of like I have a half of my house is a studio, and the other
yes,
half is so and I spend more hours online sometimes than I do upstairs in the evenings, depending on what night of the week it is. So if it's like a
Yep.
Tuesday or a Thursday or a Friday, or sometimes Saturdays and Sundays, I spend a lot of hours here working. And so when I say she's supportive, we're supportive in that nature. But I also joke that she has like almost zero interest in anything that I actually make her do.
Yep.
I'll finish something after 3 months, and I get kind of, oh, that's nice. Yeah,
I know the feeling.
Yeah, so I always joke around that, but no, I'm thoroughly looking forward to the someday when then somebody in my house that lives here says, "Oh, can I play that?" Oh, absolutely, you can. Bedtime? Forget
Yes.
about it. We don't; those don't exist any longer. So no,
If you're old enough to reach the table, you don't need bedtime.
That's exactly it. That's exactly. I mean, that's why Jace has to leave frequently. So
Raise the table, then it's time for him to go.
yeah, fair enough. Yeah, well, it's just trying to keep the table intact when that guy's here is enough of a challenge. So yeah. But no, it's very cool. I love to hear kind of like people's origin stories in terms of like how they got into things, what people think about it. Like for example, I don't ever share basically anything that I do like at my place of work with students or anything like that. Like if they
Yep.
happen to find it somehow, fine. But it's not something like I ever share.
Yeah.
Not because I am embarrassed in any means. I definitely am not. I don't think that if you're able to, I was able to create a business out of this and work hard at it and make it a little bit more than a hobby. So I think that I don't think there's any shame there. But it's just something I kind of just keep. It's my thing and it's what I like to do. But I always like to know what people share, what aspect. I know people who have they have their gaming, their Facebook gaming accounts because they don't want to know that like people that they work with want them to know that they do things. And I'm just like, I think this is, if you do it and you do it a lot and you like it, it's a part of who you are. So
Absolutely.
Share that out. What's the shame? I'm a nerd. No problem. There you go. I wear it proudly. So no.
Definitely. No, I fall more into that camp as well. So I'm definitely not hiding it from anyone.
No, it's
And
I know.
actually, I'd
spending
say,
hours doing it.
Yep, that's probably the other thing. So when I got into X-Wing, it was kind of that type of thing where I found out some people at work were playing X-Wing. One person in particular, I asked him about it. He told me a little about it, told me about the leagues they had going on, and I picked up a couple of ships and started flying, and kind of that was my entry, I guess, into the gaming community around here. So
Right. And I mean, like even kind of like how you and I connected. I'm not even like I feel like, geez, I want to feel like we've been chatting for, it's got to be over 3 years now. I feel.
yeah, it was
I've been in this. Yeah, it was before Legion,
before
right?
Legion.
Or
So,
like yeah. So then we're over
yeah,
3
because
years.
yeah, you started on the table before the game was out. Because I remember we actually had agreed on the details of the table, and they dropped the first RRG, I think, and they talked about Grand Army in there, and I called you up and said, Sean, change the size of the table for me.
Yeah, I don't actually recall that conversation, but fair enough because we built. What do we build? Yours was a full 6x4. We did, right?
Yep,
No.
we had agreed on a 6x3, and
Yeah.
when the RRG came out and said Grand Army is going to be 6x4, I called you up and said I want that. So
Fair enough. Fair enough.
redesign it, and
Yeah.
you hadn't started yet, so we were in a
You're
good
fine.
spot to do that.
Yeah. No, I mean, but like, I mean, that's kind of the origin of that. But since then we've played together at LVO.
Yep.
We've played together in like a Canadian tournament. We've
Yep, Winnipeg.
got a chance to have a lunch on our way through to a Gen Con one year.
Yep.
Met up for another lunch when we did the table exchange. I met your wife, went
Yep.
out to dinner with her, had a great evening, had like a ginormous steak at a restaurant where the waiter made fun of me. Like, we've that started over
Yep.
like, well, for lack of a better term, a business transaction. However, it
Exactly.
has developed into a little bit more than that. Here we are hanging out on a Thursday evening, you and I working on different projects and shooting the breeze about all things. So that's
Yep.
that's an intangible of getting into the hobby. So if somebody were to poo-poo you for doing something, and then you're like, but I've done this and this, and developed these relationships and made these friendships and these connections, and then it's just like, well, you do that at baseball or at the bar or in whatever other things you do that people deem as normal versus us nerding
Exactly.
out here. So,
Yep. Yeah, I'll be honest. I played World of Warcraft for a few years, and that one was a lot harder to explain to people that no, it's actually a social activity and it's an okay thing than gaming has been
right,
for
right.
tabletop gaming. So,
Yeah. No, there's a massive social aspect in this, and like it depends on what end you back into it from. Like I have a an affiliation with building things that people need for the game, and that's a nice piece to connect over there. But I connect with people who either paint or play, and I mean I do all those. I do some more than others, and some better than others, but I mean I personally do some aspects better than others, not better than people, but but yeah, no, that's the fun part about this all. So we develop these hobby hangouts to kind of showcase what we're working on, but first and foremost, it's just a platform to come. So we're trying to slow grow it. We would love to have more people just sit and chat and put things on, but it doesn't have to be. You don't have to have 100 people doing it. Like,
yeah.
It's just if I'm working on it, then I'm getting that enjoyment out of it. So.
Yep. And I think in regards to that too, one of the things I've really enjoyed about this hobby is most of the people I've interacted with, it's always been people are excited to see what other people have done. People are supportive of whatever other people have done, regardless of where they're at in their learning or skill level. And nobody is keeping trade secrets, so to speak. Everybody's willing to share something to help somebody else get better, or how they did it, and generally excited to share.
Nope,
So
for sure. We got. I was just talking to Joe last night. We usually when we're not podcasting, we're having a conversation that's equally as long. And last night I think we talked for about 2.5 hours just about all things Legion, and just usually we have like a pre-chat before shows, and then usually we'll have a next day chat after post shows, and then
Yep.
then we just chat to talk about things that we forgot on the show or want to cover next time. So it's always a thing. And one of the things we were talking about last night was just all the things that we kind of have in terms of our show and stuff, and just kind of contributed, like where we started, like a few people hanging out. Now we have many more people hanging out, but
Yep.
now there's like a subculture within the chat where they kind of just converse themselves, and like if all we're doing is creating a chat room for people to converse over Legion at that time, great. Like it doesn't even have to be on point with what we're talking about, and we're by no means the authority on anything, but it's really nice to see, like, we're like weekly people come to hang out. That's the idea with this, right? Weekly we want people to come hang out and just create that venue for people to kind of share. And of course,
Absolutely.
Passive message boards are fine. I don't poo-poo them at all. In fact, I contribute to them a lot. There is something else just to be said, like, I'm not super hyper focused on what you're working on, nor are you focused on what I'm working on. At the same time, though, I feel like I'm being productive, and I may not otherwise come down here and sit for an hour and a half. I think we're at an hour right now, so go put another 30 if you got it in you.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I may not otherwise do that because I may lack the motivation, or painting black bricks for an hour and a half straight doesn't necessarily, after a day of work, doesn't strike me as the most fun thing to do, even though I love this. But like having a quick conversation with somebody is sometimes all the motivation you need to do the real mundane tasks. I've assembled droids, You aren't going to tell me
Yes.
for a second that that's fun to do. I've done 60 some odd droids. Maybe the first couple's cool, couple poses fine, but then you're like, God dang it! I've spent 5 minutes getting this head together, and I got 55 more to go.
So,
Can't wait.
how do you put your heads together? I'm
Oh my
curious.
goodness. Okay,
Do,
so
do you,
what I
obviously we had to talk about the two-part heads. So,
yes, yeah, fair.
what's you've done 60 of them? What's your trick? Because
Okay,
I'm
first,
about 60 of them in as well.
okay, first and foremost, I once posted a very funny, I think, quite funny photo of me working on the heads, and I took two. They're basically they're called like third hand tweezers. They have a little
Okay.
bracket underneath them so that you can set them down and they stay clipped together. So I
Yep.
post this photo of two of them, each of them painstakingly holding a piece, and I was teasing them together, so it looked like I was doing like a surgery on the head. Not how I assembled 60, but truthfully, what I do is I take the back of the head, and I actually leave that on the sprue, and I
Yep.
cut the nose cone, and then what I
Yep.
do is I drop the glue inside the back of the head because it's got the recessed pocket, and then
Okay.
I press in the nose, and then when I have it on there, what I do is once I have the nose, I give it a little twist. I give the head a little twist so the nose is actually sitting straight up and gravity is holding it into the pocket. And then when that's
Yep.
fully dried, then I just twist it off the frame, and then I just trim the ear flaps.
Okay. Yep. That's almost exactly what I do. Because I was going to say, for all the complaining about the two-part heads, and I get it, I understand it. I actually don't have a big problem with them. I actually put the glue on the nose cone on the back of that, and then stick it onto the back, still on the sprue, like you said. And I do that so that the nose cone is facing up. So, like you said, gravity basically puts it in there the way it needs to be,
Yep.
and then leave it alone for a few minutes, and it will seal itself. And then I grab my clippers and cut it off, and the file, and go down the edges, and so it takes a little bit of time to do all of them that I've done, but it is not the worst thing in the world, in my
Nope,
opinion.
absolutely not. So I'll slide over here, Michael. I'm just going to put you on the big screen, and I'm going
Okay.
to just go grab my commandos myself. So it's
Nice.
just you on there, so people can see kind of what is in your hands, I guess.
I better make sure my hands are on the screen then. They get to watch me file off the nubs of the sprue and all that exciting stuff.
All right, slid back in here. I'm
So,
just going to grab. Go ahead.
so I was just going to say, if you had told me earlier today that I was going to be on stream, I could have cut my fingernails before becoming a hand model.
No
But
problem.
but
I'm
on
gonna
the other hand, I probably couldn't have held all the droid parts without my fingernails. So
Fair. All right, I'm going to slide over here real quick, and I'm going to give you guys a quick shot of what I'm working on. I'm going to try the zoom feature on this new cam real quick and see if it's any good. I wanted to show you guys some of my commandos. I was showing you, Michael. I know that I posted some pictures, but man, the pictures I didn't feel like we're showing them off very accurately. So let me just zoom in here and just see what this looks like. Oh, that doesn't work too bad, actually.
no, it's pretty good.
So this is my prototype. I'm not quite done the color scheme on him, but I'm not sure if you can see that,
Yep.
Michael, with the orange. Yeah,
Yep.
so that's my prototype. Again,
Nice.
they're gonna have
So
the
was that
snow bases. Yeah, go ahead.
the anthracite gray I heard you talking about on a somewhere previous, or is this a different gray that you use as the base?
Yeah, no. So, yeah, that's one thing I'm not very good at in terms of painting. I need to really trim my palettes down because I have too many paints on the go. So in this one
Yep.
here alone, I've used Anthracite Gray, Contrast Yellow, I've used Burnt Iron, Dark Gull Gray, Panzer Dark Gray, Light Gray, contrast gray, neutral gray, black primer, and then orange rust. So a lot of
Okay.
colors to get there. But anthracite is one of the things. I used it on the recesses, the anthracite. So
Okay.
the bulk of it actually is and so this is what they start out. This is actually what the Vallejo black primer comes out like. So it's not really a
Yep.
black, it's more of a dark gray. And then what I've gone in and started with the light gray on the joints, and there's going to be a number of other things. And then from there, then I have actually given it a wash, and then I airbrushed it afterwards with neutral gray to bring it back up on the highlights. And then I
Okay.
go in and paint the like the middle ribbing and the recesses of the joints. I actually use the anthracite in there, and then I actually highlight the anthracite with burnt iron, and that's kind of my metallic finish. So I'm using a very kind of subtle metallic colors, and that's in the recesses of the body. I'm not sure if you can see that there,
Okay.
like
Yep.
on the mid waist and the shoulders, things like that. So
Yep.
yeah, so that's kind of gives you a little bit better of an idea of that orange there. So and then you can see the chest
Nice.
panels. I've sort of highlighted it up. So and as you turn it, you can see the gray sort of peaks with the light. So
Right.
yeah, that's kind of the idea. So and then this is my droid color here. So I wanted to have something that was in contrast to them.
Okay.
So they're a lot lighter, but these guys are still gonna kind of fit the scheme. So still in that gray
Yep.
range, and then obviously I feel like the white bases is really gonna peak up and bring the color tones quite nicely. So, but here's an example, Michael, what I meant by the yellow masking tape. So yeah, this is
Yep.
my diving double gun pose. But yeah, so just painting or just taping off that, then I basically can paint everything and then peel that off. I have a guy over here that I had to re-glue, but also I primed this thing exactly the same, and you can see there's no frosting effect on the
Yeah.
stand. It looks fine. This was what I was talking about with the chipping fluid on the shield. So you can see that bubbling. That's just actually the chipping fluid there. And then right by my fingertip, that's actually
Yep.
where I scraped away the chipping fluid just to make sure that it would. And yeah, it just peeled everything off, and so it'll expose right down to the yellow.
Nice.
Yeah, this is my Achilles guy, sort of jumping and diving in. Um, I have a matrix posed guy, kind of diving to the side.
Modeling horizontal for advantage.
Yeah, I mean 100%. Yes, I mean that's obvious. Um, this guy's also modeling for advantage because he's completely upside down,
Yes.
and so he's got a thinner base, so you can barely see any of them down there. So I'll slide him out. He's obviously the leader because like he's the
Yeah.
most advantageous. And then check this out. I was super impressed with like I hadn't painted any B2s, but this right here is my B2 color scheme, and that is actually just the base color. And I was like, dang, I don't really need to do a heck of a lot more to these B2s.
Yep.
Obviously, I'm going to pick out a few more points, but I thought, geez, that's a pretty spectacular. That was primer and one base coat. And I was
Nice.
like, I don't think I need a lot of contrast. So like and fitting in my scheme of my droids with the gray on gray on gray, three
Yep.
units, all enough contrast, but all still within that gray scheme. So and what I'm going to do is um, I'm going to tie in a little bit of orange to my droids. I decided I'm going to go back and do a gray shoulder pad, a gray nose cone, a gray elbows coloration, just to make my units distinguished, very subtly distinguished. Um,
Yep.
and then I'm going to bring a bit of orange into the B2s, and then obviously I have some orange in the commandos. I'm actually going to do my staps, the bikes up as orange. and kind of do it to do it that way. So bringing that orange theme in. So
Very cool. So yeah, I
there
think
we go.
I think I posted in our chat the other day my B2s. So I'm redoing my droid color scheme. So I think this is going to be the color scheme for.
Yeah, I did see this. I
Where's my?
like it.
Where am
Down
I
a little
going?
bit, and then over. There you go.
There we
Got it.
go.
Yep.
Yeah. So
Here.
I think
Let
that's
me.
going to be the color scheme for all my droids. Obviously, they'll have the color in different places to distinguish.
Yeah, I'm gonna
But
bring it full screen. There we go. So that we can just see
okay.
there. Yeah, that's really nice. And did you end up doing
So
the lining, the black lining, and then the panel lining,
yes, I
like
or no,
the
sorry. Or yeah,
hard
the
edge lining?
yep, yep. So the edge highlighting was last. So it was I did my base coats. So primarily it was the dark Panzer gray, covered everything, and then did the blue and white and just a tiny bit of metallic over
Mm-hmm.
top, and then put a gloss coat on it. And so this is actually really glossy, and I figured that was just for the the Tamiya panel lining
Mm-hmm.
that we discussed. And I did all that, and then I got done and I looked at it and thought, I really like that gloss on these. It gives them a little more sheen, kind of like they're just out of the factory, a little bit of that metallic look. So I think I'll actually, when I'm all done, put a gloss coat over them, and then did the edge highlighting. Well, a couple spots I had to highlight back up where the panel lining got, so I brought it back up where I needed to. Did the edge highlighting and put in the red eyes and the one light on it, and
Right.
so I think this is what it's going to be when it's done.
Oh, it's cool. I like that blue. What color blue is that?
So that is actually, so I've got it here. Is it the electric? Yeah, the electric blue from Vallejo.
Nice. No,
I don't know if
I
my
really like.
camera's lagging a little bit.
You just keep it turning a little bit. Yeah, perfect, right there. No, I like
There we
that.
go.
I like it a lot.
So, yep. So I actually had two blues I was looking at, and I had settled on one, and my daughter told me, no, that's the wrong one. Do this one instead.
Oh, okay.
So,
There you go. So she's
and
got
since
some
I've told
insight.
the whole fam, oh yeah, I've told the whole family I'm colorblind for years. Not really, but I said, like most guys, I know about 8 colors.
Yeah.
So there is no differentiation between shades of blue. And so when she told me that's the wrong blue, do this one, I took her word for it.
No, fair enough.
So,
I uh, I am not colorblind, but I only see everything in shades of gray. Um,
yeah.
so I basically everything just I equate it back to some sort of shade of gray. It's light gray, dark gray, medium gray,
Yep.
bright gray.
Yep. Exactly.
So
Yeah, no, I always tell my family it's like the 16 color box of crayons. That's all you get when you talk to me.
yeah,
If it's
fair
not one
enough.
of those, I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, all these
So,
like I hear like things like fuchsia and like or I also can't understand when people speak in GW, where it's like, oh no, that's red of the blood gods, and that's like snot green,
yeah.
snotling green. Oh, okay. You mean like light gray? So yeah, I only speak gray. So
That does explain your color scheme, but no, I
yeah,
like your
it's
stuff. So,
everything is gray for me. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, there's gray in the desert. Just wait.
yep. And then, like I was also asking about the other day, I think I've been trying to figure out what my bases are going to be for my droids, and I've gone around a few times, but I think I'm back to Dathomir. So
Yeah, I actually
I
had it
think
when you
that's
asked the other day. I started looking, and I think we need to, like, I think it'll be worthwhile, like, we do a little sit down, and we can kind of go through some reference, because I think it's not the easiest world to go, and like honestly, the color references I found were like all over the place. Like
yes, and
there
I
is a
think
ton of colors.
yep, and I think when you start really looking at the references closely, the first thought is red jumps out all over the place, but it's not actually red. It's that the sky is red and the
Yeah.
ground is more reddish brown.
Mm-hmm. Well,
So
I
I think
don't know if
it's
I don't know if this was of any interest, Michael, but like this, I'm not sure if you can see that, but like I actually have a nice
Yeah.
crack texture, and then on this side, it's a lot more subtle. It's very subtle, but this is actually a cracked surface over here as well. It's actually just two different texture pastes. One cracks
Okay.
at a much finer rate than the other. But the
Yep.
real trick is afterwards. This isn't just the material straight out of the package, because the stuff right out of the bottle is very, very red. This is much more of an orangish baked sort of brown.
Yep.
And so there's various color variations you can do this, but this is done with a series of inking and then actually brushing over with weathering powders to get
Nice.
different colors. So very seldom am I using something right out of the box, but
Yeah.
if in fact you are looking to start from a reddish brown palette, that might be that texture paste might be a nice place to start.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's kind of what my thought was too, is finding something that's a base color kind of in that reddish brown, and then, like you said, inking and weathering um,
Yeah.
textures
Yeah, make
to go from there.
make the product work for you, and then add the changes as necessary.
Yep. And like you said, there's enough variation in the colors depending on, is it the shows or the video games or the comics, that if you're in the ballpark, I don't think anybody's going to say anything.
No.
So
Are you thinking about any like terrestrial elements to add to the bases at all, either,
I
or like
have. So I obviously, the picture I sent you today was how do I do these trees if I do a table that way?
yeah,
But you see a lot of that same type of vine pattern throughout a lot of this stuff. So I thought that would be something kind of easy. Set a few of those vines on some of the bases. It would very much have that look of, it's not Geonosis, it's Dathomir.
right? No, for sure. I'm uh, I'm just working my way through. I decided I'm gonna batch paint these. I don't know why I always do this to myself, but I only unbox like 2 boxes of commandos. I have 6 boxes, but I'm only doing 2. I don't even know why I didn't do 3, but like I just don't know if I'm
I
gonna
don't
run
either.
3, and if I'm gonna do 3, it's probably not 3 full. So
Yep.
I kind of like getting the extra boxes, because I feel like I have like this. Okay, these are snow themed and they're going to be painted a certain way. But what if I don't want to do snow themed droids? And I'm like, okay, well then I'll just have to paint all new units. So I figured out what I'd do is like do two, two, and two, and then like later on
Okay.
when I want to do another droid themed army, um, I will have more commandos to do. So right now I'm just going through and batch painting out, like, okay, I'm doing the kneecaps on all these. Go through and do all the
Yep.
kneecaps. Then I'm gonna go through and do all the wrist panels, and to do all those, and kind of keep working my way, working my way through.
Nice.
Because I
Yeah.
really need help stay motivated painting, because it is something I will quit in like 5 minutes.
No, I like the painting, but I have a hard time finding time to sit down and complete a whole project, even over a few days. So I'll get like eight. Most of my Legion minis are 80% painted because I'd never bothered to go back and actually finish them. So they're like, they need some highlighting, or they just need the varnish on, or they need to be based. It's just they're all 90% done.
I have been
So
impressed that I've done all my droid units so far. Like I got 1 tank finished. I need to do 2 more. I have the bases done, or at least partway started for the other 2. But as I want
nice.
to do these commandos, I'm going to get the 2 squads done, because I basically, like I said, 2 squads is effectively more than enough to do three units. I did up like 2 stabs. I did enough shields, enough swords that I can kind of mix and match, or have 1 unit of one unit of another. Um,
Yep.
and then I have 2 units of B2s, all base coated, ready to go. They're going to be fairly simplistic. So I'm going to do the commandos up, then I'm going to do the B2s, and then I'm going to base those, and then basically I have most of the separatist stuff that I own painted. Obviously not the extra boxes, but enough
Yep.
functional stuff that everything's painted. So because that's what I've been playing. So
Nice.
I usually paint what I'm playing or have somebody else paint what I want to play. Um, so Jace has done up all my clones, minus like he basically has the phase ones, phase twos, characters, and sabers done. He doesn't have the arcs, so he's going to do the arcs up to match, and then I got the RTs here, so he'll do those, and then I'll get him to do my. And he's got all the bark riders done, not the barks. So, but I basically as soon as I got my clones, I decided that they were just so boring to play against and
Yeah.
would be boring to play that I just never bothered to field them. So I hoping to get some love because I think Anakin will be nice. He'll change the style of play, so that'll be fun.
Yep.
But really, I probably will be on clones for a while or droids for a while because droid tanks are stupid. So
Yeah. Yep. Well, I was trying to decide if I wanted to keep up with four, and so when Droids came out, I thought I'd give them a shot, and I really enjoyed Double the Fall. Had a lot of fun with it. Played it at Two Primes and LVO, and
yeah,
said, "This is my faction. This is what I'm playing from now on." And then COVID hit, and like I said, once that hit, I kept buying stuff, but I wasn't playing anywhere, so I didn't need to put anything together. So I didn't, which is unfortunate, but I'm finally getting back into it. So
yep.
trying to get caught up with all the boxes that have been sitting around.
Yeah, like I just told you, I have 38 boxes of Legion, literally 38 boxes of Legion on the new releases, all sitting there. None of it is assembled, and I'm like, I gotta. I said I'm doing an assembly party, but like a party of one.
Yeah,
But what I'm gonna do is I want to get these droids painted. I want to get them in the case, and then I'm gonna start working my way back through Jace. Is actually painting like right now. He's got like 160 Rebel models that he's painting for me.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, and we're doing like an Afghanistan slash French Foreign Legion motif. So like everything that's like supposed to be like winter gear is like really just like scarves and like ponchos for like the desert. So it looks really
Yep.
cool. He's doing a fantastic job, so I can't wait to get that. So
Nice.
basically, when he finishes that, he'll finish those 160 models. I'll get these 14 done, and then like probably at the same time, and then I'll basically have a full Imperial army, like with double heavies. I don't have a tank in there, they're not painted yet, but then a full droid army with the double heavies, full clone army with the double heavies, and then a full rebel army with all the fixins, including two T-47s.
Nice.
So when that gets good in year 6 or 7, it will be ready to go. So
So I tell you what, I've played against T-47 in a couple of tournaments.
yeah.
It's been a little while now. The T-47, while definitely not the best unit, maybe a little overpriced, it can be surprisingly effective.
Oh, I hate it.
Once it gets behind you.
I kid. I actually really fear them.
Yeah.
I don't. Like if you like. I know you can ignore things and all that. That it's so. I don't like it. It's overcosted, so I feel like you kind of have an advantage over your opponent in terms of like, okay, you probably have like you've invested points into that. Maybe I have impact, so I can take it down. But like,
Yep.
there's missions right now where, like, for example, bombing run. Forget it. If you were a blue player, it is so bad to you. It can bomb you on the first turn if it's in a rebel
Oh
list
man.
on the first turn. Um, if it's in a rebel list, it probably has nearly the same activations as you, and so lasting with a T-47 or nearly lasting is still feasible on the first turn. Even if you take it out, you're
Yep.
still going to get a bomb. It's unaffected by its own bomb, and it basically it can, you know, just triple move at you, triple move and drop a bomb wherever it
Yeah.
wants. And it's like, and it's the only bomb it can carry, but like it still doesn't feel good. And so you might spend part of your turn scrambling to get out of the cluster that you started in. just
Yep.
merely because of that, right? So it can be disruptive. They're not terrible. They're just overcosted, and then as a result, a lot of people just invest their points in other things because you only have so much points. So I get it,
Yeah.
but if it ever comes down in cost and becomes a little bit more affordable, it can be good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think the other thing is too, there's a mindset of well, people who have been playing since the beginning that it came out too high and they dropped it significantly, and a lot of people never went back to see
Yeah.
what it is. And then we get new things like you said, like the uh, is it priority supplies? No, not priority supplies.
Uh,
The
Vital assets.
vital assets. Thank you. Once you get that stuff, people revisited some things, but there's a lot of things that never got another look at that I
No, and
think are
I think another thing that really hurt it was a unit that wasn't good in a $60 to $70 box.
yeah,
And so like you just never bothered to invest in something when you never saw other people use it, or you heard a lot of people poo poo it, and it's just like
yep,
I'm not buying that unit. And even if you did find value in it, or somebody showed you the way to use it properly, or you had good success with it, if you didn't already own it, again, you probably justified that, like, I'm not going to run this all the time, and I'm just still not going to get it.
yep,
Versus the ATST, which was the same price, perhaps a little bit more. I think it was $10 more or whatever. And
yep. It
you saw
was.
people using it, and it's very iconic, much like the snow speeder is. But it was iconic. It was playable. It was commanding on the table. It did things, and then suddenly you justified the added cost.
Yeah, I think the other thing too was the upgrades for the T-47. Whether or not it needed them, the upgrades that were available were underwhelming.
But they're just straight terrible.
With Wedge and Harpoon, and
Yeah.
it was they were they were not exciting. And even if you thought you could make them work the first time you played them, you realize that yeah, Wedge you could use once, and the Harpoon you would seldom get a shot. You would probably die, put yourself in a bad position trying to get a shot, and
Hmm.
then realize you actually had to hit to do the spin, and you were shooting at something with armor. So
Yeah.
it was,
It just wasn't great. And
yep,
like I'm sure again, I think if the T-47 didn't come out when it came out, like basically the second release of the game,
yep,
or near about, I think that if it was designed later, like let's just say it was just coming out now, it would be stupid fantastic, and everyone would probably want to have them.
yep.
Like it's just where the design space was at, so it's not really a fault of anything other than it's
No,
just
no,
it suffers from early development syndrome.
yep. And
So
I'm actually impressed with the game as a whole. There's not a lot of pieces that have no place in the game.
no, and the willingness to go back and fix a lot of it is fantastic.
Yep,
And I
yep.
was
And
praising Alex about that just a couple weeks ago back. That I super appreciated the fact that like that FFG is willing to continue to go back and just not be content that like, well, that's how it is, and we'll just buy our new
yeah,
stuff. Like they're okay to go fix and sell and have people maybe not even rush out and buy the old stuff because maybe you can't find it, but the people who did invest into it before now suddenly have a second use of it. Dust it off, get it out.
yep, exactly.
So yeah, it's something to be said for that for sure.
Yep.
Um,
And I think too, a lot of the focus, fairly or not, gets put on the high-end competitive play. Um, and I think if you step back from that high-end competitive play, there's a lot more lists that are playable if you're doing friendlies or locals or whatever than what probably gets credit for.
oh, for sure. Yeah. Like I said, I actually really like to see people fielding T-47. Not against me,
Yep.
but like I do like to see them. I have used them on occasion. Um, I've used them in skirmish before. Like they're actually really good in skirmish. Um,
Yep.
just because they're like putting in work immediately. They're also really bad in skirmish because anything with impact basically can shoot it from turn one. Um,
Yeah.
but it is super fun. It is fun to have that really fast flyer. It looks cool on the table because we really don't have any flyers. Um,
Right.
and and again, iconic and really cool to see. People know it immediately. People can come from across the room and know kind of what you're playing. You know,
Yep.
maybe not specifically, but they know it's Star Wars, and so it's an attractive model. And I'm glad, and I get why they did them early. You know, both the ATST and the snow speeder, or the air speeder, I guess. But yeah, just too bad that it didn't have the same prevalence. But like I said, hold out hope. Rebellions are built on hope.
Exactly.
All right. I'm just wrapping up this last knuckle on this guy. I'm not sure where you're at, Michael.
Yeah, I'm working on my fifth and sixth stabs, so just getting them cut out and edges off.
Okay.
So I don't need
All
to
right.
finish them all up tonight, but I'll keep going until
Okay.
you're ready. So
Sure. Yeah, I got to, I think I got five kneecaps left here. And then I got, like I said, I got the second coat on everything that I needed to in terms of the walls and things, and I really let that stuff dry a full 24 hours because it gets a little, like I said, it gets a little tacky because it is kind of like an adhesive. So,
yep.
and then what I'll do
Are
is
you
that's all I really.
you're
Go
working
ahead.
on, sorry, Sean, you're working on your training again, or are you painting again? Okay.
I am
No, I
sorry.
just
I'm
saw
working
you
on.
working on.
I'm working on droids.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nope,
paint
that's fine.
some
I just
kneecaps
looked up
there.
and didn't see anything. So
No,
cool.
I had it pulled in close to me, I guess. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna leave that, and then I'm going to take the blackened out building, and then that's gonna get transferred over to Jace. He's gonna start working on the inside, um, and I just have to finish the one outside wall and one outside wall, and then half of another outside wall, and then I am ready. So he'll actually get the panels basically like this, and then this makes
Okay.
it super easy for him to paint like all
Yep.
the bricks, so not having to like angle the brush in or anything like that. And then I'll get them all
Yeah.
back, and then I'll reassemble it. Then I have to do a little bit of work on the corners, just finish off the few bricks to finish the, obviously to round over the corners to connect them all. Finish up the chimney. Then what he'll do is I'll black those out, and then he'll come in and just have to paint those corners and a few other bricks. The pattern will be the same. So it's like I said, it's a little
Very
bit
cool.
of an unorthodox build as well as paint, just because having a building and doing the interior and exterior is
Yep.
just it's just very different. Um,
Yes.
a lot of people don't do 3D print interiors either because like once you print it, it's so hard to get in there and paint and.
Yep.
But this one's it's gonna be cool because it'll be a full up, like I said, inside outside. Probably use it for some product shots and things like that. So we wanted to make every aspect of it have as much detail as the next. So no skimping
Absolutely.
on the details.
I've never seen you skimp on details. So
Yeah, fair. It's not. It's I'm not starting now. Uh, it's not a.
not in your nature.
No, I just think like it's just not worth it. And sometimes like what happens is like it's I often say this about like good painted minis make boards look good and boards make good painted minis look good, and they have a real complement
Yep.
for each other. And what ends up happening though is like same thing with painting or if you do like a really nice paint job but the basing work is, I don't want to say terrible, but I'm just saying the basing isn't up to speed with the painting,
Yep.
or it's just not done.
Yep.
Unfinished pieces, unfinished parts, or details that are like clearly skipped on actually diminishes the quality of all the other hard work. It doesn't like there's no distinct line. It's not like, man, that painting's good, but the base. It's
Yeah.
like the base is like, oh, the base, and then you detract from the good paintwork. You actually see the terrible basing or the missed areas first before you ever see any of the good stuff.
Yep.
So
Because it's one piece of art altogether.
it is,
It's
and
not
I'll
two
give you
pieces sitting next to each other. It's one piece.
right. And
So,
the best litmus test for that is you've seen this. Everyone's seen it. You watch a battle report, and we do it sometimes here too. And I don't detract from it. Let me just be clear. I would much rather have people play a game and get into it with unpainted stuff and hobby later. But you know you've seen a beautiful
yep.
table, and the very first thing you
Yep.
notice on that table is the unpainted miniatures. You
Yep.
skip everything and you go right to the gray guys. It's it's because it's not finished. If you were to walk up to a painting and somebody painted a 1 inch black square right in the middle of it, your eye would look at that 1 inch black square as unfinished and not at the beautiful painting that you see.
That's true. So that's what
So
I'm going to do now, Sean. I'm going to put a black square in the middle of my painting and sell it for $1 million. Be rich.
actually, if you just duct tape a banana to the wall, I think that's popular as well now.
I heard that, so that's why I'm pretty sure I could sell a black square for $1 million. It's a statement on society or of something or other.
Yeah, I'm not cosmopolitan enough to know that. It's a new reference
Yep.
that I've been hearing people throw around. Is you're not cosmopolitan enough. I'm not quite sure what that means, but I think just people cooler than me say it.
See, that surprises me because I used to watch old movies because my dad liked old movies. So that sounds like something I'd see in a movie from the 30s or so. Cosmopolitan.
Yeah, fair enough. I thought that was like a
It's so
nice being
old, it's new
favorite.
again.
Well,
It's that too.
oh, okay. Let me tell you this, and I don't even know if I'm going to get the reference right, just because this came up in a conversation at my work today. I think it was like, ah, geez, I'm going to get it wrong. It's something around like instead of saying trick or treat, some people would say like apple. Geez, was it like welcome apples something? If you don't know the reference, then you're just like me. I forget what it was. Geez, I wish I would have. It was like instead of saying
I do
trick or
not know
treat,
the reference.
they said something like apple something. I'm gonna grab my phone. I need to look this up right now.
I've not heard this one before, so this is new to me.
Where am I? Okay, there it is. I'm just gonna grab my phone. Okay, this is gonna bother me until I can find this. So, man, I wish somebody was in chat that knew this right now. I heard this reference and they were asking everybody in there, and it was like, if you didn't know it, it was like you were weird. Okay, so trick or treat, and then
Oh, weird wouldn't be the
apple.
worst thing I've been called.
Yeah. Fair enough. Trick or treat. I'm gonna select trick or treat sayings. I'm looking this up right now. Trick or treat. What is a trick or treat saying? What is that? I'm just gonna look this up. Man, I need to know this here. Oh, there it is. It's Halloween apples. So people say trick or
Okay.
treat, and then one Canadian wrote, or you can also, so it must be a Canadian thing. Or you can say Halloween apples.
Well, that's why I don't get it if it's a Canadian thing. I mean, I'm at
Yeah,
least 2.5 hours away from the border.
I mean literally.
Oh,
Yeah. This I was just reading. I mentioned this before, but my wife was never brought up growing. It was brought up growing it in Calgary. Instead of chanting trick or treat, children shouted Halloween apples. I apparently
sounds like
was
somebody played a
weird
trick on them.
for not knowing that. However, since then I've asked. Well, now that I have the reference, I knew it was something to do with apples. Now that I have the reference, apparently nobody else has heard this either. So this
Nope.
might have been a very select group that knew this, or perhaps not. I'm not 100% certain, but okay. I now have you assembled all your commandos too, as I think you said, hey?
Yep, got those done the last couple days. So
How many commando boxes did you do?
3.
Three. You did, and you assembled all three.
I did assemble all 3.
Yeah. See, I assembled two. Now keeping in mind, I assembled all mine by making every single pose unique, and then I got tired. Um,
So I didn't spend a lot of time on the poses per se, but I have one unit that has shields, one unit that has swords, and one unit that has neither.
right.
So there should be no duplicates between them.
Uh, so I did swords and shields. So I did four with shields, because I probably
Cool.
will never run the five guys.
Yep.
I did the two snipers, two sabs. Let's see where my other saboteur is here. One of my sabs I actually did. Let me see here. That's a sword. That's a sword. That guy's double gun pose. That guy's a sword. Double gun pose. Double gun pose. Um, and then I did. I don't know. I think I'm actually missing. Maybe I have one more guy. Yeah. So I did the two sabs, two snipers, four with swords, four with shields, and then I did three double gun pose, basically just to either bulk out units or mix and match between swords and shields. So um,
Nice.
a lot of my shields, and I did three guys on flight stands. I did a guy diving on the ground. This guy here. So he's
Nice.
diving forward. This
I
guy
like
is
it.
probably one of my favorite dudes here. I've actually just planted the shield in the ground, so he's actually not touching the base at all. And so just the shield is, and he's kind of like diving forward. So
Very
that's
nice.
yeah. So they're surprisingly stable. Like they look very fragile, the commandos, but I actually found them to be a little bit more like a little bit more sturdy than the actual B1s myself.
Yeah, the feet on the droids doesn't give much contact.
No,
So they're
even
I
less
broke a
so if
couple of
you
them at LVO.
right, even less so if you just I just have this guy held up by one hand, touching the base. So, but what I did is
So
I
he was
cut
designed with
his
stability in mind.
100%. I mean, yeah, he's clearly the most stable. But the thing, what I was saying with mine is that I actually use the basing material to go kind of up and over the feet slightly, just because I'm doing the
Yep.
snow base and I want them to look. So really, I add a lot of surface contact
Yeah.
with other than just gluing them and then putting the basing material right up to them. It goes actually over them because I try to make it look like they have a footprint in the snow. So you can
Yep.
gain a lot. You can gain a lot from that alone. So
Yeah, and I'm sure once I base mine, like I said, I was trying to figure out what I'm going to base them, so I haven't done anything. They're just naked on the bases yet. All my
right,
droids are.
right.
So,
And then you're gonna do them up in the Dathomir type
yep.
look. So no,
Yep.
that's cool. Oh, awesome, Michael. Well, we're at that 145 mark.
Okay.
Why don't I just jump back in the booth here? We'll close off
Perfect.
here. I will go throw a different camera look in here for a second. Drop out this one, and then I will meet you back in the booth here. So let me slide over.
Perfect. Yep. Finish my last bike here and then maybe.
All right, I'm back over. I'm just gonna swap the camera real quick so we can have the right names on the right guys. There we go. I mean, not to be confused. My name is less cool than Michael's, so Michael's
Yeah,
Michael's name's longer, takes up more space, all that. That is cool. I
that's
man,
what matters.
those stat writers are So fun looking. Now here's a question for you. You did not glue
Yes.
this. Did you glue the riders to the staps already?
Yes. These are
Okay.
glued on.
Okay, so that's how
So, and that
you're
was
gonna
actually
paint
what I found.
yours.
So I guess I know a lot of people talk about putting them together, and I was experimenting. So I got the whole
Yep.
body built except for the arms, at
Mm-hmm.
least the arms that were connecting. And
Yep.
then I glued the arm. I'm using the plastic glue, so it has a little bit longer drying time.
Yep.
So I put the arm on the shoulder, or both of them, as the case may be, and then put the feet on and put the feet in. And by that time, the arm was starting to dry, but still flexible, and I could kind of pivot it to get it to touch the handlebar where I needed it, and put the glue on there. And then by setting them down this way, oh, if I don't knock them all over,
Mm-hmm.
gravity was holding everything in place.
Okay.
So,
So I'm
so
not
that
gonna lie
was,
to you.
yep,
It's exceptionally cooler to see them like in the raw form assembled than any of the painted ones that I've seen right now. Like only because no only because I can envision what the model looks like without like because all I ever really see is like Instagrammed type photos and
yep,
like I like models. I like to see models. Like the commando droids look way cooler in person than I thought
yeah.
they were going to. It doesn't matter. I've seen all the pictures, all the box art, all that stuff. And then again, the Stap Riders look exceptional. Now, I will also tell you, I am going to make. I bought. How many boxes did I buy? 3 boxes over there. Um, I am going to make at least 4 of mine definitely not look like that.
Yep.
I am
I would be
100%.
surprised if you kept yours generic.
I am definitely going to have one guy hanging both hands onto the foot pedals and dragging behind his. That is 100% happening. Yeah, that has to happen. I'm also likely going to have a guy almost completely falling off one for sure. I'm going to have a guy
Nice.
definitely on the handlebars but feet trailing off like he's going too fast.
Yep.
And then my other one is definitely going to be a droid hanging on with one arm and actually shooting backwards, a la the speeder bike. Just a throwback to the Imperial speeder bike rider. That's where I'm
I,
at.
I, I
So,
like it. So
and then
I'm a
I
little
might do
disappointed,
two
Sean,
normal. Yep.
that you're not buying another AAT just to take part of it and put with your stap, like the stap is running into the AAT. I mean, that
Oh
seems like
well,
the very cost-effective thing you would do.
I have 3 AATs though.
Okay.
Yeah, so I have technically an
So
extra AAT.
yeah, I could see you parting that out for to make a stap cool. That seems about right.
Well, what I'm actually going to do is I'm actually going to have 2 droids, like sort of doubled over as the AAT is plowed through. So like the arms on the top and the legs underneath.
Nice.
And on the back side of the base, I'm just going to have the legs of 1B1 and no torso. Yeah, so
I dig it.
that's what I'm doing with my other because I have the 3 bases. So one is going to be exceptionally funny, and then the other 2 will be more normal. So and you've seen I have my rider tumbling into the AAT already. So
Yes.
and Joe was telling me that he's purchasing an extra Anakin to mount onto onto a stap.
Yes, I heard that on your cast
Yeah, so
Tuesday night.
he's gonna do that. So I can't do that because then that's just straight copying, and I don't want my droids to look like
Yep.
anybody else's. I will have to come up with some clever way of making my staps like unique because I don't have any droids that are kind of like more box art droids. The B2s were a little bit difficult to really make different. So I did like some
Yes.
like kneeling heavy weapons and like sort of changed a little bit of the stance of the legs, but they are traditional robots. Their
Yep.
torsos were so thick and wide, there was no flexibility to them. So I'm I'll do my best to maybe vary up the bases and whatnot to make them look cooler. But the droids were the commandos were by far the best unit that I have assembled, and in terms of like being able to add a lot of variety, I loved it.
Okay.
I am looking forward to doing some arcs. I'm doing some arcs on some grappling lines. Like I'm going to actually do them rappelling down. So the line's actually going to be holding up the miniature. I'm just going to do that at a wire. And so I'm going to actually have my arcs suspended coming down on grappling lines.
I like it.
Which will be kind of cool. So yeah, it's by far the best part. I wish you could just assemble and then like somebody else just painted them for you, but
Well, you've got somebody doing that for most of yours.
I know, but he can't paint as fast as I want things like now. So you were talking about X-Wing before, and I'm just like, that's why I loved X-Wing. You pulled out you pulled out a ship, and it although it looks like other people's, I did actually do a lot of repaints in X-Wing. But again, they were easy one and dones. Like I used two ship builds for the most part, right? Like it was like it was nothing to get that stuff. So, but I honestly, I say that I wish Legion was pre-painted, but then I probably would have them, and I wish they weren't. So, next week, I have to do a little bit of painting. I have a couple just generic stormtrooper units, but I have to make them look like zombie stormtroopers.
Yes.
And so I need to do
that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna do up some like maybe some blood on them, and like maybe a little bit of tarnished armor. Nothing too fancy, but for the Halloween specials. So I'm gonna quickly do up something next week, but just something fun and entertaining. But that game is gonna be fun. I wish I would have had like a themed set of terrain, but we could probably use the gray ruins that we've been using for a while here, because they'll kind of fit that sort of monastery type look. So I'm actually thinking about I might just drop like a little bit of a fog overlay over the game cams to just sort of like emulate You
don't have a fog machine in the studio yet?
I mean, what do you think the Patreon goals are for, right? So let's just be realistic. I set my Patreon goals for all that fun stuff, but no fog machine currently. So, but I did discover that my smoke detectors also pick up if you have the shower too hot. So
wow.
Yeah, when my mother was here, we don't use our spare shower, our spare room. It's just my wife and I that live in the house. And so my mom was here doing that. And while at work, I received a phone call that said my fire alarm was going off. And it turns out that it was just too much steam coming out of the shower. And they dispatched a fire truck. So it's it was literally it was not required. It was literally water, which would put out fires that set the fire alarm off. So, but so it's just no fog machines. I try to stay away from anything fire, smoke, or otherwise related to here in the studio. But a fake overlay, that's well within my realm of possibility. So. For sure. So nice. Awesome, Michael. Well, thanks for hanging out. This will be live. People can see it and at any point, and they can listen to our ramblings and going on. But we do encourage people to come hang out with us. Matt will be back, but Michael, we could have as many people in these chats as possible. So you are always welcome to come back out and hang out and do some hobbying. And even if it's, you get a couple, an hour and a half or whatever hobbying in a week, it's to keep me honest, to be perfectly honest, what I want these for. So they do work. So as I said, folks, make sure you guys, if you haven't got a chance and you're inclined, go check out the Terrain Studio Patreon. It does help kind of produce and carry off the hosting fees and the tutorials. There's a tutorial every month for you on various things. This month I am going to be working on a fall scene, just to kind of show you some elements around that. Last month's tutorial's up there. That was on that arid piece of terrain I showed you. The month before that, I think I was working on, try to remember what I worked on the month before that. I can't even remember what I put on there. I've had so many tutorials on there, but there's rust, snow, mud, how to work with Celluclay, how to work with styrene. Michael's been a longtime patron of mine, and he's hopefully learned a few things along the way. And you guys can too, of course. And you get exclusive access to some of the content that I can't put out there. But I do make all the tutorials public, not to discourage you from becoming a Patreon. But if you wait long enough, I'm going to give it to you anyway. But I do appreciate the help nonetheless. So thanks, Michael. I appreciate you sporting the Terrain Studio T-shirt as well tonight. Repping hard there in the US of A. Stay safe, stay COVID free. Say hello to wife and daughter. And we'll chat soon.
Have a good one.
All right, guys. Have a good night.